Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel and the series about data engineering and data science within Microsoft Fabric. I'm your host Estera, and today Miguel joins us to continue discussing data flows within Microsoft Fabric. In the previous video, Miguel shared the story of data flows and generations, as well as the data flows importance. Please check that video if you haven't seen it already. And today we are going to discuss data destinations. I can't wait to start. Miguel, thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for having me.
Let's dive right in. I will start with my first question. What kind of destinations do we have inside data flows?
So for data flows, for now we have Lakehouse, Warehouse, SQL Server, and we also have Custo databases. So we have those four, but we're planning to add more in the future.
So all of them are within Microsoft Fabric. So the goal is to move the data from different sources to the sink. And in this case, the sink is the artifacts within Microsoft Fabric.
So the premise is that we actually started with Microsoft Fabric artifacts, but there's one which is SQL Server, which is not really a Fabric artifact. So if you have a SQL Azure database that you want to just load the data to, you can use it. So that's one of them.
And can you comment how the connection to the SQL Server is configured?
So the configuration and the whole experience is quite similar to the one that you know from Get Data. So if you have connected to data with Dataflows or just Power Query in general, it's pretty much the same. You just start by defining data source path, or basically what the database you want to be connecting to. Input the credentials, and then you go through a dialog or a set of dialogues that help you to choose how you want to save your data to the destination. So it should be pretty straightforward, but we're making it even more intuitive so that you don't have any issues.
Super. Miguel, can you demo how to configure different data destinations for Dataflow's second generation?
Yes, of course. Let's go into it.
Super.
So now I have a Dataflow Gen2 open, and what I'm going to do is that I want to connect to some data. So I'm going to click here on the Get Data button in the Home tab, and I'm going to click on More because the data source that I'm going to connect to is OData. So this is the modern Get Data experience. I see that on the left-hand side, I see a navigation bar. I'm actually at the Home tab at the moment. I can see the new sources. I see the integration that we have with OneLake Data Hub. I can upload a file, and there's a bunch of other options or modules on the left. In this case, we're just going to limit ourselves to just grab data from one of the sources that we have, which is OData. But I do welcome you to try the rest of the module. I'm going to click on this one that is called OData, this connector, and it's only going to require me to input the URL. So I'm just going to copy paste. I already had this in my clipboard. I already had a connection. But imagine that what will happen is that you'll input the URL, and then you'll have to fill out this information at the bottom. Are you going to be using a gateway? Are you going to be using a specific authentication guide? In this case, I don't really have any authentication guides for this service, so I can just connect anonymously. I'm going to click on Next, and now what's going to happen is that I'm going to go to that data source, and I'm going to go ahead and list all of the objects from that data source. So this is the Northwind endpoint that we have from the services .odata.org endpoint for our data. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go ahead and click just on, let's just say that I'm going to click on order details. So I'm just going to grab this, and I can potentially just go ahead and grab this one with the orders tables. And I can click here where it says create. So we're going to be grabbing those two objects, which are tables, and we're going to be bringing them into Dataflow inside of the Power Query editor. So we see those two queries. If I actually collapse this, I can go ahead and also collapse this other one. I have a better view. I can also click down here where it says diagram view and see that those two queries have been brought out into this Power Query editor. So I'm going to try to make some really simple transformations. I'm going to select those two columns, do a right click, and just say remove those columns. Super simple. And this is actually happening on the order details. What if I go to the orders column? So there's a few other columns that I really don't need. So I can do the same. Those record columns, record and table. So you're gonna remove those. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information that perhaps I don't necessarily need. For example, the employee ID. I don't have the required date or don't really need it. There's a bunch of other information that I perhaps don't need, but instead of actually going one by one and removing them, I can just click where it says choose columns and just say, hey, you know what? I just want order, customer ID, order date, and then just freight. And let's just say ship country. That's it. I don't need anything else. So with this information, pretty much have all that I need from this table. And what I want to do is bring the information from the order details. So I'm going to click where it says combine on the home tab, and I'm going to merge this data with the data from the order details. I'm going to click where it says merge queries as new, and it's going to bring this dialog. It's cool that we can actually move it around so I can see what's actually happening behind. And I'm going to merge it with the order details. Now look at the top right where we have this little light bulb. We have a number 1, which is telling us that there's actually a mapping or a suggestion of how we can actually map the tables. And it says that we can use the order ID. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Trust the feature. I trust it. And I'm going to click where it says OK. So it created that relationship or knows that we can use that join kind and use those two columns, basically the order IDs from each of those tables. And it created that merge as a new query that we call merge. And we can now bring the information from the other table. So I'm just going to bring all of this information from the order details into the orders table. So now we have the whole breakdown line by line of the orders. So every single item is actually here. So now that I have this consolidated view of orders, not just the orders and the order details, it's everything about the orders in a single denormalized table, but in the shape that I actually needed, I can go ahead and set a destination. Before I do that, I perhaps should rename this from merge to compile orders. And I can click here, down here where it says add data destination to add the destination, or you can actually click on this one that says add data destination, or in the home tab where it says add data destination. So when I click on add data destination, I can choose from these 5 sources or 5 destinations. I'm gonna go ahead and click the one that says Lake House. So I'm gonna click on Lake House. It's gonna do its magic and just tell me that, hey, you already have a connection, so you don't have to input anything, you just click next. So that's what I'm gonna do. And now it's time to actually find the lake house that I wanna use as a destination. So I'm gonna go here and find the lake house that's called video sample. Now this video sample is actually in a workspace. So we gotta find the workspace first, expand that workspace so we can actually see what's inside of that workspace. And this is the lake house that I'm looking for. It's called video samples. So we can actually either create a new table or choose from the existing tables. I'm gonna go ahead and just create a new table. This is the new table option. Just click on table name and input the table name that you wanna use. By default, it just picks the name of the query. So click on next, and the next is to actually set the column mappings and define how you want the destination to run. So I can use automatic settings, or I can uncheck this and see everything that we have. So in terms of update method, should I go with append or should I go with replace? Do I want to just append on every new run, or do I want to full replace the data from that table? Furthermore, what happens with dynamic schema? So what happens if in the next refresh I have more columns? Should we actually add those new columns, or should we just stick to the column mappings that we have at the bottom? So I'm gonna go with the default, which is actually replace and dynamic schema. And I can see now the information around, how the column mapping actually works. So what it's telling me at the moment is that there's this column, order date, which appears to have a date time zone data type on my query, but that data type is not supported on the lakehouse. So I can change this. So I can either click on Save Settings and then go back and change the data type. So I'm going to change this one from date time zone to just be date and nothing more, because there's really no time component. So I can just change it to be a date. Go back to the data destination. I can just click here. And when I go back to the column mappings, I should be able to set that column to actually be map, since there's no dependency anymore on that column time being something that is simply not supported. So that is now a date, and that is supported. I can also see the destination column name and the destination type. When I click on Save Settings, I'm gonna go back to the Power BI editor. I'm gonna right click on this too and say that we don't have to stage this data. And this is just gonna make sure that I only refresh or evaluate what's gonna be computed in the compile orders query. The other two ones will not have to be staged behind the scenes. And I can click on publish, and this is gonna be publish. It's gonna automatically run. And once it finishes running, I should be able to see the data in my lakehouse. So I'm gonna go ahead and just go to my lakehouse. This process should take around 2 minutes. So we're gonna come back in around 2 minutes and see how my data looks like inside of the lakehouse. And now that the process is finalized, I can see my data inside of the lakehouse. So this is the same table, the same query that I created, and you can see all of the names and all of the data types correctly shown in the lakehouse. And this is how Dataflow Gen2 works in Data Factory.
Miguel, that was a great demo. So we have a different type of data destinations. Are there any optimization techniques to make it faster, more adjusted to the specific data types or maybe data destinations? Can we somehow optimize this process?
So it really depends on what you want to optimize inside of that process. So there's a few things that you want to optimize at the data flow level, or what we call the mashup. So you could say that, for example, you want to stage the data. So you want to load it to temporary destination once it's actually processed, and then from there, load it to your final destination, which might actually be more helpful to be more stable and just have a higher throughput once you're actually doing the destination or the load to destination. That's one. There's a few other ones that are related to just the mashup itself, which is just having the most optimal Power Query script or the set of steps that you want to have. So that's the second one. The third one, it's really bound to your data source. So is your data source capable of handling that throughput, that incoming throughput? It's all based on that. Then if you're using a gateway, it depends on the availability of that machine, the capabilities or resources available for that machine as well. So there's a few moving parts. But what I will suggest is trying to always make your Power Query script or just your set of steps the most optimal ones. We do have a few articles that help you with this. And we also have a blog post to help you with staging should you consider using staging in the future.
You mentioned gateway. Does it mean that we can use data flows with on-premise data?
We can use Dataflows with on-premise data. That is correct. So you can connect to any of the connectors that we have available for Dataflow Gen2 with a gateway. And that gateway effectively is the one running your data flow. So if you want to plan to load the data from your local data source, maybe a local folder, maybe a local on-premise database, you can use the gateway so it actually sends the data directly to a destination of your choice, which could be Lakehouse, Data Warehouse, you name it. It's up to you.
And are there any limitations to consider when selecting like different type of data destination?
The limitations or considerations, I'll call them that way. It's mainly at the data destination level. So if we're saying that, for example, you want to load the data to an Azure SQL database, but this Azure SQL database, the table that you're trying to load the data to is somehow locked because you are running another script that's one thing to take into consideration. So it's more about planning on the destination, making sure that the table that you're actually loading data to is capable of handling that data, as well as the database and the server running the database. So in that sense, you want to try to make sure that your destination is capable.
Sounds great. Miguel, thanks for sharing and thanks for being here today. In the next episode, we'll discuss staging mechanism in details. And for today, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe the channel. And also leave a comment or leave a question to Miguel, leave a question to me, and also suggest the titles for the upcoming episodes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.